So, Honorable Attorney General Racine, thank you so much for being with us today. So, first I want to ask you, what inspired you to become an Attorney General in the first place? And what's your journey been like?
First of all, it's a pleasure to be interviewed
Thank
by you, Raj, and I appreciate your asking me to sit for this. I ran for Attorney General really for two reasons. First, in the District of Columbia, the Office of Attorney General had never been an independent nor elected position. And so when that opportunity to be the first elected and independent Attorney General came up, I thought that I might be a pretty good one. So I ran for that opportunity. Second, and most importantly, I ran to use the law to help our most vulnerable residents in the District of Columbia and to support the rule of law nationally.
And how would you, speaking of the rule of law, which is the main point of this whole book, how would you define the rule of law and the role of the Attorney General so that teenagers can understand it?
I think that's a great question. I think the rule of law means that there is a right and a wrong. There's also a process to getting to the final conclusion as to what is right or wrong. And then at the end of the day, whether you win or lose, once that process has been determined, the law is the law and we should respect it. That's not to say that the law is static. For example, some laws in the past allowed for slavery. That needed to change. There is also a way to change the law, and it's all about using the civil process as opposed to using intimidation, violence, and other means.
Really well said. And
Oh, thank you.
yeah, and what's your favorite part of being the Attorney General of Washington, D.C.?
My favorite part is fighting for the independence of our office, and again, most importantly, using the law to help residents who need it the most. For example, in the District of Columbia, we use the law quite creatively to help poor people who are in housing situations that are not fair, that are not right, where they're not safe, and where their kids can suffer harm. And how do we use the law in those instances? We use the law in those instances to hold the owner, the manager, the landlord accountable. That's using the law to help vulnerable people.
And what's one of the toughest decisions you've made as an Attorney General, and how did you navigate that struggle?
I think one of the hardest decisions that we made was deciding to sue the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers for their role in the January 6th insurrection. There were a lot of folks in DC who wanted action, but no one really knew what was the proper action to take. And so our team studied the possibilities of suing those entities for creating the harm that they created. And in the District of Columbia, several Metropolitan Police Department officers would later die by suicide as a result of the January 6th event, and many DC police officers were battered and bruised by the violence. And so it was a hard decision to move forward in that hotly political terrain, but we needed to do it, and we did the right thing by being the first municipality to ever bring a lawsuit against those kinds of hateful actors. It's the best decision we've ever made.
It's truly inspirational. And what's one of the biggest obstacles to the rule of law today, and how can we overcome it?
A brilliant question. I think the greatest obstacle to the rule of law is misinformation, disinformation, the difficulty it is now to get people to agree on a set of facts. Law relies on people either agreeing to a set of facts or a judge or jury coming to the conclusion as to a set of facts. And then we apply the law to those facts. Now we're in a situation where we have people who are not even willing to agree to a set of facts, and the role of misinformation and disinformation in regards to that has the potential to destabilize the rule of law, and indeed our democracy.
And lastly, how do you think we the people and teens can partner with you to stay protected from the dangers of social media and the internet?
Well, I think it's really important for you to do what you're doing now, which is accessing the state attorney general. I would urge you to also access state legislators as well as federal legislators, Congress, and the Senate. I can tell you what we do at the Office of Attorney General. We stay always connected to young people. We have a high school advisory council that advises us on ways in which we might use the law to continue to protect teens. And certainly, as we just heard, social media can be great, can cause a lot of harm also.
Yeah, that's really the program. I think that's the first time I've heard a teenager program that helps the Attorney General's office. Thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. In DC, we put kids first, and we put kids first by listening to young people.
Thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you, Raj.
Thank you.
A good man.
Yeah, and
It's the best interview questions I've had in 7 years.